Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it a few minutes for the algorithm to kick in. And in the meantime, hopefully this does come through. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We've been working on it for the last couple minutes, but we'll see what happens. If it gets too echoey, we may have to just cut it short today and say, see you later, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Hi, welcome to today's show. So today we are going to talk about love is an action versus a lip service. And along with this, we're also going to talk about the love languages that are out there and how we give ourselves love and how we see love for other people. Welcome, morning, ladies. It's been a morning already, hasn't it? Shania, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. My name is Shania. I have a business called Soul Therapy. I'm from Minot, North Dakota, and I do healings, mediumship, and tarot.
Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Sherry Huff. I can be found on Facebook under Spirit Closure with Sherry. I do mediumship and divination readings. A lot of the work I do is for helping people heal from grief while moving on to the next step in life.
Awesome. And I am Majestic Michelle, and I work with the Akashic Records to help people heal through their trauma of their childhood or anything they may have brought in from past lives that we decide that we need to bring in versus, just leaving it behind, right? Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about love. And I know we've all been on this journey of self-love and accepting love from others. And I know during my journey in my childhood, I have realized that it's one of those things that I've heard a lot, but experienced very little. And so I don't have a lot of experience of what love really is, but I definitely know what it's not. And the last probably 5 years, I've really worked hard on showing myself love and to just doing what I'm doing, especially over the last couple of weeks. I've been kind of just traveling around, seeing friends, having fun. Because that's actually things that I like to do. I don't like to have to show up for a Monday through Friday job, 9 to 5. I want the money just to come in and like everyone else and do what you love, right? Because then we're more in our flow, we're more in our center. Sherry, what brought you to the journey of self-love?
Honestly, I think I got tired of my own BS.
I get that.
You try to fit in that mold that you're never going to fit into, and eventually you just get to the age, I think, a lot of times it's age-related. You're just not willing to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Shania, what about you?
I was kind of forced into it by my spiritual team. They like to put me in timeout, and where I disconnect from everything and I'm not able to help others until I start helping myself and focusing on self-love and healing myself. Very frustrating.
That would be. So I started my journey probably off and on. Like I thought I was on the journey after leaving home when I was 18, but now I know that I really was not really on that journey until after the divorce 10, 11 years ago now. That's when it all really started to kick in. And it's been an interesting, I was pretty much tired of my BS and the BS that was showing up in the world, which we know it's what we create, right? So if the BS is coming in, it's coming in for some reason and you're emotionally allowing it to be. So I just got tired of my own BS and figured, things needed to change. And you can only start with yourself. So, like the Michael Jackson song, the man in the mirror.
Right.
You know, you can only change that person. So here I am on this journey. But yet on this journey, I realized that one of my love languages is quality of time. So to me, it's like, let's go for a hike or let's go, do something fun that we can experience together. Sitting on a couch watching a movie, to me, is not quality of time.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather meet a friend at a coffee shop and talk than sit in front of a TV. And I don't care if I meet that friend like once a month. It's that time we spent together that will always be there. And so it's been a really interesting journey. Because we usually all have like 2 love languages. Did you know that? You have your main one and your secondary. And my secondary is physical touch. And when you tell a guy that, they think it's sex, right? Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's, putting your arm around me, hugging me, holding my hand. Those small little things that tell you that you're there for them. And so I always really hesitate to tell somebody my love languages because they're like, ooh, physical touch. We can have quality in the bedroom.
Right.
Right? It's like, no, that's not how this works. So Shania, do you know what your love languages are?
Mine are quality time for sure, and that's one that I've always had since I was little, I guess, because that's always been what's most important to me. And then the next one I would say is either the physical touch or the acts of kindness, and it kind of depends on who it is as to which one is more important to me. Like my I guess I don't know. It used to be more the acts of kindness, but as I'm getting older, more the physical touch and stuff. My husband walks by and just kind of brushes my arm or something. To me, that means a lot. But at the same time, acts of kindness means that he or my children, my daughter loves to make me things. It shows that I'm in their heart or in their mind. So both of those are important to me, but definitely quality time is number one to me.
Sherry, what about you?
Definitely quality time. I think my next one would be giving gifts. To me it feels better to give something than to get it. And I've learned over the years you have to kind of temper that because a lot of people that's not their love language and they feel like almost like they're in your debt if you give them gifts sometimes. So
yes.
Yeah. So I'm like you, Michelle. I hesitate to tell people that. I just kind of get to know them first and kind of go from there.
You can always tell when people's love language because it's always what they do for other people. Mm-hmm. Even though they would like to receive it.
Yeah.
And so if we actually saw somebody and their, love language was like act of service. And so if you went and maybe did something once a week to help them out, they would find love in that. You may not, but they definitely would. So therefore you're helping filling them up. And then in return, because we all know the universe is going to give us back, that the universe is going to help fill us up through another way. Or maybe that act of service, you're spending that quality time with that person. So you're both filling each other up. So it just all depends too. But the reason why I chose the title is because I know I went through this as a teenager. There's too many times as a teenager where we hear the words, I love you, from someone. And they're saying it just to kind of get down the pants, right? Into the pants. They're not saying it because they really truly love you or care for you. They've learned that that word can get them other things. And so we really need to start like stepping back again and like realizing that, hey, what are you doing? Am I in alignment with who you are and what you're doing? To go, okay, I want to be part of this world. Because every single time we choose somebody, whether it's a friend or a partner of any kind, we're like going, okay, do I choose to be part of your world? And are those actions with integrity with who I am? Because also, we have people who have those actions that aren't always with integrity either with who we are. And those are the ones we kind of go, yeah, no, I'm going to back off and not go with that. So Sherry, during your journey, how have you experienced action versus lip service when it comes to love?
How have I experienced it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Every relationship we have is either a lesson or a blessing. And they say that you have three kind of loves that come into your life, and I really believe that. The first one's kind of an immature love, where you kind of get the taste for it. You learn a lot. And the second one, you're almost ready for the real thing, but you're learning about yourself and how to make others happy too. And then that third time, it seems like that's the kind of love that sticks. I don't mean going from relationship to relationship. I mean, there's three big relationships in your life that you'll encounter in love. And I think I'm finally on the third one, thank God. You kind of learn who you are and who your person is. And I think after years of giving and giving to the point I was worn out, because I thought that's what made me lovable, I learned that I'm getting the kind of love that I am accepting. And once that realization kind of hit me, I was able to kind of step back and really see what I was doing wrong, instead of just always trying to do things right and then think everybody else was wrong. And that's kind of when I picked up this love language thing, and the pieces kind of fit together better.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because when we can always find out their love language, we can always, it means that we're showing interest in them too.
Mm-hmm.
So Shania, how have you experienced like lip service versus action love in your life?
I have not experienced a lot of actual, real, true love in my life, and yeah, it's just words so much of my life. Um, I've just recently come into a realization, I guess, that my husband might actually really love me, and we've been together for like 24 years. But there's also different levels of love and different types of love, and um, with my husband, I love him. He's my best friend, but there are definitely phases where I'm not in love with him. The connection, the intimacy comes and goes, and so does the type of love or level of love, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But yeah, I've had multiple boyfriends. I love you, and that just means that I want to have sex with you. And it always drove me crazy how easy it was for people to say that, just to use it for whatever they wanted. In my family growing up, we didn't use those words, so it's really hard to accept that somebody might actually love me, especially because I'm still working on my own self love.
Right.
So it's
I totally
very
get that.
big
I know as a teenager and young adult, whenever somebody would say I love you, I actually like went like this and would back off. It like even when I was like dating my kids' father, because we dated 3 years before we got married and everything else, it took me a year and a half to tell him I loved him. Yeah, it was like, and it wasn't words that was ever said in our household. And so I was like, wait a minute, what are those words? What do they mean? So the only time I really heard them growing up is from a guy who wanted to get in the pants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like going, it was really a lot different. So I was always like going, no, we're going to back off. And then whenever I hear those words, like then, I would literally do something to sabotage the relationship. Yep, there's my pattern. So, this journey of self-love has been an interesting one. And like with the journey of self-love too, one thing we need to do is make sure that we are feeding ourselves. So, how do you feed your own self, your self-love? Shania.
I'm still working on that. I try to give myself time alone, and which is really hard. But allowing myself to to do my meditations and to connect to the universe, and when I do several different types of meditation. A lot of it is like healing the chakras and stuff like that, and connecting to my guides, and for to me that's a really good therapy, I guess you could say. And it's very healing and uplifting, and so that's my biggest way to give myself self-love is to spend alone time with me.
Cool. Sherry, what about you?
I think part for me has been to learn like what trauma response looks like and sounds like, because for me it was like I'll do it myself. I don't need anybody. And I did not realize, like my husband's. I'm sorry. I'm answering this. I swear. My husband's love language is acts of service and words of affirmation. And because I had been so traumatized as a kid, not getting what I needed in different ways, I was rejecting what he was doing for me, thinking that he was just trying to get on my nerves. And actually, he was just really trying to show me that he loved me. And so I think for me, I had to accept that I was lovable. Like the first thing you have to realize is that you are lovable and you're a divine being. And because you're from the source of love, you yourself are love. And
Right.
so that was probably the biggest thing I did to realize for myself, to show myself love, is to realize that I was worthy of it, first of all. On a daily basis, though, it just requires, if I feel like I need to sleep in and rest, that's what I do. Like, if you could imagine what you would do for your child and their needs, or your best friend, and what you would do for them, oftentimes it's the need you're missing giving yourself. So I guess it just looks different every day. I love how she answered it, because sometimes that's what I do, but a lot of times, because I like to do things for others, I'll get on my live and do a card reading or something, and I feel a lot better.
Awesome. Well, for me, it's like going, because my biggest one is quality of time. How I like to spend quality time with my own self is maybe going for a walk. Heading up to like a hike and seeing I love nature. Seeing what nature is looking like for that day. Right now I'm surrounded by large bodies of water, which is great because that means like the energy is always flowing. Which is so different from being in Minnesota where you have bodies of lakes, not bodies of water. Because in lakes, the water's not always flowing. There's waves, but they're always going back and forth and crashing into each other. Where even though you have waves here in the Gulf and that stuff, it's such a large, and there's a feeding coming in and a wave going out, that it's constantly moving in a direction. So that way the water is constantly, like energy is constantly flowing versus just kind of keeping in the same circle. So it's been a really interesting here where it's like, ooh, I get to go down the lake. Even though, like, okay, I'm really not a water person. But I understand how water calms me down. Because, a Leo by birth sign. If you did my soul analyst name, for my soul's contract on my name, I'm a Leo. And then I have red hair, so that's another fire energy right there. So that's going to be some really intense energy right there, right? And so it's like going, because you have all this fire energy within me, when I can get to the lake or get to a body of water and just relax by it, even if I just put my feet into it, everything just kind of like, I calm down, everything flows away, and I was like, yeah, I feel better. And so that's some of the ways like I can show myself quality of time by going and doing things that I enjoy without having to worry about if someone else is going to go with me. Because after all, don't kind of need to be our own best friend first?
I don't know. There's plenty of days I annoy myself.
Well, then you really know yourself. I mean, hey, if we can annoy ourselves and piss ourselves off, you know that we really, really know ourselves. But what are some things that you had to work through for you to accept your own love languages? I know for me, it was actually accepting all of me. Because I know for a really long time, like I had my work personality and I had my spiritual personality, and they really didn't mesh. Because I wasn't sure how people would perceive who I was in the world. And then one day I said, forget it. I don't care. They're going to talk anyway, so I'm just going to let it all out there. And life became easier. Because I was no longer going, okay, I'm this person by day, this person on the weekend, this person during this time, this person during this time. It's kind of like what Sherry said, like living up to everyone else's expectations and thinking that's love. Because I know growing up, like, you know, you're told, you're kind of like molded into who they want you to be. And then as soon as you leave home, you go, wait a minute, I don't have to be that person. And I think this is why some siblings get along really, really well when they're living at home. And then as soon as they leave home, they all change. Mm-hmm. Because they no longer have to be that person, that family dynamic person that they were then. They get to figure it out for themselves now. Because I know, like, I was dabbling with tarot cards and that when I was 18. I had no clue what they were. I was just at a shop one day and they looked interesting, so I bought a box. Just out of a whim. So, you know, I always knew that there was something to receiving messages. I always felt everyone's emotions extremely intensely. And then for a while there, because I felt them so intensely, I did hide myself away because I didn't want to deal with everyone's emotions. And then once you learn to know your own, part of the loving myself, like also loving and knowing your emotions, I get to now separate everyone else's emotions from my own. Yeah, they're still intense, especially if I open up to them. But I'm like, you know, I get to control this now and I don't have to open up to you if I don't want to. It's my choice and I get to choose. That's the joys of being in a body. Because I think when we are in like energetic form, we always don't get to choose all of that stuff. The energy is a little differently when we're not in a physical form. But yet, here we are in this world. What has been your guys' biggest challenge about love?
I think for me, of course, I'm a psychology person. You know, the older you get, the more you realize that you carry these experiences with you, and you learn that they hide in your body, you know, the memories. So pain comes out in weird ways. And I think for me, like, I learned all about this in church like 20 years ago, the love languages. And I got really good at helping people identify theirs. I got the book of the 5 love languages and kind of did the test and all of that. The nice thing about knowing about your love languages is, and this is where my challenge comes in, once you know what makes you feel loved, then when you learn how to do shadow work, you can make sure that your love languages are balanced. So where mine is quality time, like it's like oxygen to me. If I don't get it, I just feel totally deprived and like I'm gasping for air. When it's balanced, it looks like spending time with people I love and even myself sometimes, doing something I enjoy by myself. When I'm unbalanced in that, which was where the shadow work comes in, I'm needy or clingy or grouchy if I don't have it. You know, so I think for me the biggest challenge was figuring out what was stemming from other places and then making sure that I wasn't living in that energy.
What about you, Sonia?
What exactly was the question?
What has been your biggest challenge?
The whole meaning of love, the whole action of love, everything about love has been a challenge for me. One of my biggest challenges recently, or not recently, but as an adult, is my husband's love language has always been touch, and I am not a touchy-feely person, or hadn't been, and it was very awkward and made me just very uncomfortable to, it was very awkward to just reach out and pat him or touch him or, you know, whatever. And when he would touch me, you know, I'd kind of shy away or whatever. And so touch was a very foreign subject for me. But now it is part of my love language as I've grown, I guess. But yeah, everything about love has been a challenge for me. It's really hard for me to love myself and to accept love from others, to believe that others love me, because I did not grow up with love. I was in foster care. My parents, you know, we were told many times we were a mistake and, you know, things like that. So we didn't get love. So life has been a challenge in the love area.
I get that. Yeah, growing up, it was a very loveless household. In our household, the words were never said, the actions were never done. And so you grew up not knowing what love is, not how it felt, not if it was good or bad. You know, as adults, I was like realizing some things, like, you know, so, you know, I do listen to a lot of psychology books and read them, and mind books and that kind of stuff. So it's just really interesting that I was reading a book and they described like somebody who had like a frontal lobe lobotomy. And I was like, wow, that's my mom, but she didn't have one of those. So it's just like, it was, but it also brought into awareness, like, oh, like that's just where her mind is at. The doggy needed to join in with her opinion. It's all good.
Words of affirmation.
Right? But yeah, it was just a really interesting concept to realize, like, oh, okay, my mom, you know, like she never just developed that part of her mind. And, you know, she's talked about how, you know, she was told, like, you don't hold the kid, you don't pamper them, and you don't. And I was like, yep, I can tell you didn't hold me. As the back of my head is flat. You know, the sure sign that you didn't get held. But yeah, it was like one of those things that, and then somebody else put a post saying that the kids that were in like the schools that boarding schools, were harder to, show love and accept, that kind of stuff. And I was like, I wonder if that's my mom's thing too, because I know that she was in an all-girls boarding school.
Mm.
I think she was the last one of her sisters. Because I don't think the younger two were ever in the boarding school. But the older ones were. And those are the ones that are always like closed off, heart, everything's like this is just the way it works. You just do it. You don't ask questions. Then here me, I come along, I ask questions. Like, but why? But why? Anybody know that kid? That was me. So yeah, it's like when it was just a really interesting concept, like to realize too how our parents were raised and how they became who they were when they had you. So Sherry, have you noticed any of that within your family?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My grandparents were absolutely terrific to me. But raising my mother, they didn't want her to find love. They wanted her to take care of them in their old age. Grandpa worked midnight, so my mom was always quiet. And so she was rejected a lot by family and then abused. And then she just didn't know how to protect us. I never ever doubted my mom. She's a very loving person. She still is. But I had to go back and learn about my family tree a little bit and realize what she dealt with. Because in order to love correctly as an adult, you have to go back and assess kind of what you grew up with and tease out what really is love and what wasn't very loving. And all you can do from that point is kind of forgive and move on and do better for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to realize your parents are not perfect, and they were doing probably the best they knew how to do. They were probably overwhelmed like you are as a parent. They were probably struggling with everything. And I think we have to put down the superhero complex, both for our family members and ourselves, and realize that we're all just human beings, and people that love us the most hurt us the most, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And all you can do, I think, is pick up the torch and love yourself better and just vow to do better for others, too. That's how I take it anyway.
No, I get that, too, because, who hurts us more than us, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we can hurt ourselves like the best person around, so obviously we must love ourselves really well in order to hurt ourselves really well.
Right.
Or we're just used to that. What about you, Shania?
It was very easy for me to forgive my parents. I did look back and kind of ask why. Why did they raise us the way they did, treat us the way they did? And my parents both came from horrible backgrounds as well. So they were only doing what they knew or was taught, basically. And, they both have addictions and a lot of mental health. And so it's easy for me to forgive them because they did what they could do, with what they had. And,
Right.
We did not have any money. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5. My mom was a single mom of, 7 kids. Well, one of us passed away, so there were 6 of us left. And she was a single mom, trying to do what she could do. And so with what little means she had and what experience she has under her belt. So my vow was to be a better mom than my mom, and I hope that's what my kids want too, is to be better than their parents were, and
Right.
continue to break the cycle and to learn, to love their children and to, allow their children to be who they want to be, but protect them as well,
Mm-hmm.
So that's my hope, is that my parent or my children have a goal to be a better parent than I am, and that keeps moving on to break that circle.
Right. So, do any of you guys ever talk to your kids about the patterns of what you've been working through with your kids? to help them understand,
I'm
and a lot easier at a younger of an age than because we pretty much just had to go back and figure it out.
Yeah.
I think we're that generation that said, we need to figure this out. It needs to stop and change.
Right.
So I know, like, for me, well, thank you. I know for me that it was like I talked to my kids about the generational stuff and the stuff that I've been breaking and why from almost day one. Because I wanted them to be aware of what I went through. So that way they can go, oh, this is mom stuff. I don't want it. And allow it to go. And that way they can continue that pattern of change. So have you two done kind of the similar with your children?
I for sure have. Since they were little, I have no secrets. I've been very open and honest about how we were raised, and definitely about the addictions, really teaching them that you don't choose addiction. Addiction chooses you, and it could take one time. Especially, we have addictions on both of my sides of my family and on my husband. So my kids have a very high probability of addictions themselves. So it's always, since they were little, been an open topic with us, as well as how we grew up. My husband didn't grow up in the best household either. So we've always, since our kids were little, we've always been open about it and talked about it, and tried to show them examples of how we're trying to do better than our parents did and stuff like that. And we hope that you do better than us. Everybody makes mistakes. There's no perfect person or parent. So learn from us and do even better.
Right.
But I used to want to protect my kids from my other family members that are alcoholics or drug addicts and stuff like that. But now I use that as an example. Like, this is why you don't drink. This is why you don't do drugs. So, and I tell my family that I'm like, you are a teaching moment for my child. I point out, what you're doing and why my kid shouldn't or whatever. So yeah, I try to keep them in the loop as much as possible and try to show them teaching moments and everything. So.
Sherry, what about you?
I've been pretty open with my kids, kids have magical thinking, and they think that no one else understands them, nobody else has felt this way before, and trying to guide that a little bit. But like, my mom was really good at in the 80s when I started coming up into dating, because she had been really burned in her first and second marriage. So there's a lot of self-help books, that we read, like Women That Love Too Much. And some of those books talked about, like, you need to listen to everything a man says, because they will tell you who they are. They will tell you their character just in their conversation. And she says she was really good at teaching me, you need to watch what they're doing, not just what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that likewise can be females as well.
Yes, definitely.
We just do it differently. So I feel like she really helped me that way. But what I've done with my children is a ton of role playing. Like on our way to school and stuff, what if a boy did this to you? Or what if, I guess if they liked girls, it would be that conversation instead. But, I was talking to him, and I said, love doesn't hurt. Love is something that is supposed to make you feel safe and comfortable and express yourself freely. And I think it was as important to try to teach my young girls what love was not as it was what love is. Mm-hmm. Because I know it is, and like I was I was physically and sexually abused by my stepdad and emotionally. And so when this man would take me to church and all the things that daddies do, and then tell me he loves me, I think somewhere that seed was planted guys are supposed to hurt you, like it's just expected, and it's gonna hurt, like, and that's just something you have to deal with. And it took me a long, long time till I was like 40 before I'm like, no, I'd rather be in a cardboard box by myself than to ever deal with that again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to communicate that to your children.
Gotta find that person who's gonna wipe your tears, not create your tears.
Exactly, yeah. Get a man that'll smear your lipstick and not your mascara. That's what my mom said.
That's a good one too. So Shania, what were you about to say?
I don't remember.
Sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, I always told my daughter, I'm like, watch them for the first 6 to 8 weeks. They will show you exactly who they really are just by their actions. Then decide whether this is somebody you want to be with. I go, and if they're not doing it now, are working towards that goal, if they're saying, hey, this is the kind of life I want, if they're not working towards that goal to create it now, they never will. Because most people don't change that quickly unless we have that coming to Jesus moment, as we like to call it. Then it's like, oh, I need to change. Or if we're young enough, we can see things and go, yeah, this is not what I want. I need to change. And I need to figure that out. So, and a lot of times it's not until we hit that rock bottom that we learn to figure things out, especially if we've been through like one trauma after another as a child. We're so used to chaos and everything else, we don't realize when it's coming until it's actually hit. And then it's almost like, now I need to bail myself out of this. How do I do that? I know I've done a lot of that. Bailing myself out of my messes. Oh yeah, I've come really good at cleaning up. And that's also part of, I think, the self-love is learning where our bottom is and what is our absolute bottom that we're willing to deal with. And that bottom changes as our self-love comes up. So, I'm not really a big fan of, letting things go. That was that lady who does that, hold things in your hand and see if it brings you joy. I mean, it's like, okay, there's some things like you could have a whole entire house full of stuff that brings you joy. So it's like going, and that's okay. It's like going, you can have a house full of stuff. You can, have a downsized type house. It's okay. Because we're all different. And we all have different styles and things we need to deal with. It's when we compare ourselves to others. I know we've all done this from time to time. I think I did a lot more comparing as a mother than I do now that my kids are grown. What about you, Shania? Have you noticed where you're comparing yourself with other people have come in?
I would say that the biggest place that I compare myself is with my spiritual gifts. I'm like, man, I wish I could be that good at this, or I wish I had that gift, But as far as comparing myself to others in just normal everyday, I really don't care to be like others. I don't try to fit in. I am who I am, and if you don't like me, you don't have to talk to me. And I've always kind of been that way. It's really none of my business what others think of me, But as far as my spiritual gifts, I try to grow and to learn and to move forward, and it's a lot of work and a lot of energy. And I do get frustrated when I see, somebody, another clinician or something who does things, who makes it look so easy, or I see how gifted they are, and I wish I could be that, and things like that. So I definitely compare myself to others in the spiritual gift area.
Okay, what about you, Sherry?
I think I would add to hers by saying that to remember that there's people that look at you and wish the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Right.
And your
Right.
question was, how do I compare? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yes.
I had some interference.
Yes. How do you compare yourself to others? Or when did you? Because, I mean, we all have done it.
I think when my kids were little is when I did a lot of the comparing. You know, because I had friends around me that were really competitive, and oh well, my daughter, you know, Veronica, she's crawling at 9 months, and my daughter is, you know, I'm like, oh, shut up, you know, I got so bored with it all.
Right?
Once my kids started getting into middle school and their personality started shining and they became who they were, I also realized that I needed to quit comparing them to each other, which I really didn't do. But I saw them and their path that was beginning to take shape. And I think once that starts happening, as a mom, you can kind of take a breather and realize you've done your job really well, and allow that grace to come in and let them kind of falter and go in their own wings, because it's not a reflection on you so much as it is just them trying to figure out who they are. And
Right.
yeah, I think it was worse when they were little.
I would like to say that that's one time too that I would compare myself to other mothers or parents is when my kids were young, more for like birthday parties and stuff like that. We didn't have the money to have these big, expensive, elaborate parties that a lot of the other school kids had and stuff. So I feel bad for my kids for that. And what were the moms thinking of me? That I can't give my kids these big expensive parties, but yeah, that was my struggle as mom as of young kids.
I get that. I gave my kids big parties I think the really truthfully, I gave my kids big parties because I never had one. So it's like, yep, there's that. It's like when the time they were born is actually the time, like for my daughter, I would go wake her up that morning and say happy birthday. And then go back to bed now. Because she was born at 12:14 a.m. My son, that wasn't as easy to do because his was 6:45 p.m. So, two totally different kids and everything else. So I'm like, comparing those two together, they've always been completely different. And so I was like, okay, we're just going to allow you guys to be you. Because you guys are completely different. And I didn't want to fall into that comparison thing. Because I know my younger brother got that a lot in school. Because my older brother and I were really good in math. And the teachers would always look at me and go, why can't your brother be more like you guys? Like you and your older brother. Like, I've gotten that from teachers. Like, I couldn't believe he was your brother. Because he wasn't good in math or whatever. And I was like well, I guess not all of us are. Yeah. I think I went the math way because speaking and language didn't come easy to me. And so I was like, oh, I had numbers. Okay, cool. So I was in calculus in high school. And I do nothing with math now because I don't like it. But yet both my kids, even my daughter was in calculus in high school and she does nothing with math now. So I'm like, that's okay. That was you then. It's not you now. And that's okay. I mean, it's there if you ever need to fall back on it. But, the biggest things that I do with numbers is the Souls contract analyst. It has to do with the numbers in your name. So I know you guys all have kids, and I know Sherry kind of touched base about not wanting to compare the kids. Shania, have you ever compared your kids to each other, or had you had that kind of experience growing up?
As a child, when I was a kid, I was always compared to my older sisters. Um, our brothers, we have two brothers, and they're younger than all of us, and I was the youngest girl. So I was always compared to my older sisters. And our oldest sister was an overachiever, and she was like, you know, a cheerleader, and she was the head in like track and band and choir, and she had to be number one in everything. So she set the bar pretty high for the rest of us. And then one of my sisters was more of the party animal, and the other one was kind of the goofy, aloof one or whatever. And so I was compared to them a lot. You know, why are you so serious? Why aren't you more like this one? Or why aren't you more ambitious like this one? Or, you know, why aren't you more fun going like this one? So as the youngest sister, I was always compared to the older ones. My kids went through that at school. The teachers compared my two younger kids to my oldest one because he was on the honor roll since like sixth grade or something like that, and super smart and hilarious. And we go to a very small school. So a lot of the teachers my kids have were my teachers as well when I was a kid. So my daughter kind of gripes a lot, like, thank you for setting the bar so high, you know, teasing my older son because he's always compared to him and stuff. So my kids go through it a lot at school with the teachers. Oh, you're Jacob's sister, or you're Jacob's brother. So they don't like that.
I think the only way my kids get compared to each other is that Anne's friends will look at her brother and go, wow, there's the male version of you. Because they do look similar. You know, I mean, but it is what it is, right?
Yep.
All right, we are coming to the top of the hour. Thank you, ladies, for joining today. I am Majestic Michelle. You can go ahead and message me on the group page. You can get a hold of me at Healing with Michelle Adams, and my website is healingwithmichelleadams.com. Shania, how can they get a hold of you?
You can look me up on Facebook under Shania Melland, or I have my what do you call it? My soul therapy page on Facebook as well, where I do my healings and readings and all that.
Sherry, how about you?
I am under Spirit Closure with Sherry on Facebook. That's probably the easiest.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
We will see you next week.